Yes, I know. It is uh, Tuesday, and it's usually parking lot Tuesday. Well, it will be a. I'll be in a parking lot today, but Constance is feeling a little under the weather, and so we're off to a late start this morning on our shopping trip. So I've got time to have a few words with you here this morning. Uh, anyway, happy April Fool's Day. Now, I think every April Fool's Day I usually tell the 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 story of my assassination. Uh, you'll have to have to look it up. Archbishop DuQuette assassinated while saying mass. But I'm not going to put you through that. I'm going to put you through something else today that's sort of April Fooly and practical joke uh, themed, uh, and it's concerns lying as a magical act. That would be a very kind of a mercurial magical act because Mercury is the god of tricks and lies, and he's also he lies to you by telling you the truth and tells you the truth by lying to you, and but anyway, about 25 years ago, and I'm going to read from a chapter called "That's Not What Invocation Is All About," and that is from the book Low Magic. Little epigram is ask me no questions and I tell you no lies. That's from Queenie from Showboat. About 25 years ago, Constance and I were driving to Huntington Beach to attend a group celebration of the Rite of Mercury. Now, it's one of the 7 rites of Aloysius. And for many years in Southern California, the different local OTO bodies would sort of take turns uh, uh, putting on one of the 7 rites of Aloysius uh, in sort of a seasonal series. And this one was in Huntington Beach. And it was hosted by Steve and Judy Abbott, and they had a beautiful house in Huntington Beach, and it had a uh, one wall that opened up into the backyard. One wall was a big sliding glass window that opened out to a patio and a swimming pool, and it was a hot kind of summer day, and I remember I had just uh, been in San Francisco at a wedding. I officiated at a wedding at the Palace of Fine Arts, and I had just flown back to be Brother Leo in the Rite of Saul. Uh, but that was the same location as this rite of Mercury that I'm talking about. Okay, so don't let me confuse you. I'm confused today anyway. But anyway, but I digress. Constance and I were driving to Huntington Beach to attend a group celebration of the Rite of Mercury when I perceived myself divinely inspired at a stoplight. It was as if the winged-footed messenger of the gods himself had whispered in my ear, informing me how I could magically manifest in myself the spirit and presence of the god Mercury, and bestow that upon the entire gathering. Am I not the god of liars? I heard him say as the traffic light turned green. Honor and invoke me tonight by speaking nothing but lies. Instantly, I recognized the profundity of this idea. Excitedly, I turned to Constance and told her I was going to invoke Mercury by telling nothing but lies for the whole evening. No, you're not, was her wise and cold response. I couldn't believe she didn't see the magical genius of the idea. I argued it'd be the perfect invocation. Every chance I get, I'll lie. Mercury will love it. I'll be the only person there actually doing something purely magical, I told her. Besides, it'll be lots of fun. But Constance saw nothing perfect or fun about it. I want nothing to do with it, was her answer. You're not going to do it. I finally gave in and said, okay, I won't do it. The invocation of Mercury began. We arrived a few minutes late. I apologized for our tardiness, saying that we had just returned from the cemetery where we had watched the exhumation of my father's body. Constance looked at me with silent disgust and found an excuse to get as far away from me as she could for the rest of the evening. She's still mad at me. Of course, everyone wanted to know why my father's body had been exhumed, and I was only too glad to tell them. It seemed that the family of my mother's second husband had been told by an acquaintance that my mother had bragged to a mutual friend about how she had poisoned my father. They took their suspicions to the police and finally got a warrant to exhume Dad's body for testing. Everyone at the party was enthralled by the story, which I told with a perfectly straight face. I even proudly pointed to the ring I was wearing and told them that I had been allowed to take it off my father's finger when they opened the casket. Next, I told a few of the cast members how hot they looked in their Egyptian wigs and costumes, but I didn't get a chance to tell many more lies before the ceremony started. At the party that followed, however, I again became fully possessed by my Lord Mercury, the lies dripping like quicksilver from my lips. I started by announcing that our landlord had discovered that our house was contaminated with radon and that we had been forced to move to Garden Grove, where we now rented a large house owned by General Key, the former Prime Minister of South Vietnam. I said it had a big backyard where we'd be able to do initiations and produce the rites of Eleusis, and that there was a rifle range in the basement. Everyone believed me. You know, it's hard to keep up a constant stream of lies, even for me. In fact, I was starting to realize that it's impossible not to drag some element of truth into a lie. Actually, I was starting to realize the inconsistent and relative nature of reality itself. How there is no absolute truth, no absolute lies. Hey, was this the mercurial revelation? The mercurial trance of giddy sorrow? Okay. Try as I might to remain in character, the strain of all the lies eventually began to show. As the evening wore on, and it couldn't wear on fast enough for Constance, people began to suspect something was wrong with Lon's behavior. Our closest circle of friends became genuinely concerned. They cornered me in the kitchen just as I was reaching into the freezer for a bottle of gin. At Steve and Judy's house, I knew where the gin was hidden. Lon, is there anything wrong? You're acting sort of strange tonight. I looked at each of their sweet faces, and it suddenly seemed that the burden of the universe was about to be lifted from my shoulders. Every cheap movie confession cliche echoed now in my brain like with Shakespearean gravitas. I can't go on living a lie. This was a surprise payoff, a moment of unexpected spiritual bliss. A breathless moment when the feather of Mott quivers on tiptoe on the scale pan of judgment. The moment my answer would free me from the mercurial hell that Constance knew I would create for myself with this stupid, harebrained idea. These people loved me. These people cared. I had toyed shamelessly with their feelings. I was ashamed. I was so overwhelmed I didn't know whether I'd be able to answer without choking up. I put down the bottle of gin and looked at each of them in the eye and confessed. My doctor told me I have a brain tumor. Everyone gawked at me in stunned silence. People near the kitchen overheard, and soon everyone at the party knew why I had been behaving such outrageous things. When Constance heard this last whopper, she could stay silent no longer. He does not have a brain tumor. He's been telling lies all evening because Mercury's the god of liars. Nothing he said is true. I told him it was a stupid idea. When the shock wore off, everyone else thought it was a stupid idea too. Nobody seemed to recognize the pure magical genius of my invocation of Mercury. Nobody but me, of course. For a while, I chalked it up to the old curse of the magus thing. That's where you interpret everything as a direct interpretation of God to your soul. Then I just realized pranks such as this are not what invocation is all about. Okay. That is a retelling of my April Fool's offering for today. I hope Constance is ready. She's feeling a little under the weather, like I said, and we're going to hopefully take her on a quick little shopping trip. She insists on going. So until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.